there. And good morning and welcome back to Topics and Tangents here on Gaming with ADHD. Today I am joined by MaxLiao from Legion of Myth here on YouTube, Rumble, which I guess I should say that I've got a Rumble channel too. I never mention it, but Max is much better organized than me. So, but we are here and we're going to just talk about who Max is, Legion of Myth, and just, you know, life and gaming and YouTube in general. So
all the behind the scenes dirty secrets that you never wanted to know about me. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate that. I know that you and I have been talking for a little while here about, you know, making this happen. And I always seem like I'm avoiding people, but I'm much more busy than people understand. And this week I took leave, so I've got some free time. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, that's awesome. I know I've kind of mentioned, you know, hey, Max, I'd love to have you on before, and just get no response. But it's like, okay, I don't want to be that weird internet guy. You know,
I do the same thing. I'll reach out to somebody. Larry Elmore. I start off with a cool story. Larry Elmore, I got a painting from him. And It was a signed and numbered painting and so forth. And there was a problem with it due to one of my PCSs. And I sent him a message. I got no response back. And instead of sending, you know, most people be like, you know, I haven't got a response back. And this thing cost a bit of money and it's got some serious problems. I need to, you know, no, I didn't want to bug him. So I saw him at Gen Con. I said, hey, this is my issue. Dude was outstanding. By the way, Larry Elmore, go to his website, buy all of his art. This dude is outstanding. Nice guy. He's getting older, and I would like to make sure that before he dies, he gets, and not that I want that to happen, that he gets all the sales, because this dude really helped me out. But I was talking to him about a Gen Con. He said, get a hold of me and we'll make it happen. Well, I did the same thing. I sent him one message. I was like, I don't want to be the guy. It's like, Larry, don't respond. So another, 4 or 5 years went by. That was 2011. So 2015 Gen Con, I talked to him again. He's like, look, man, you've really got to bug me. I'm like, okay, I don't like that. But actually, I didn't have to this time. I sent him one message, and dude responded back in spades. He gave me a new version of the painting that wasn't all ruined. He gave me 2 other paintings on top of that are hanging up at work. So thank you, Larry Elmore. You are an outstanding guy.
Well, yeah, I don't have any story anywhere near that cool. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things where, like, as I've kind of gotten started in my channel, like, you know, like I've like almost anything that I review, anything that I'm painting, you know, I'm buying it myself, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I know that this is in their advertising budget, but I don't want to also be known as that guy. Hey, you know, and so
I've asked for people to come on the show, but I don't think. Oh, no, when we were doing video game streams, I did reach out to a few companies and asked for stuff. I got turned down like every time. You know, that's what happens when you have 3 viewers at that time. But right. I haven't done it for tabletop games, and I think one of the reasons I haven't is just because I either already own it or I respect the company, like Palladium. Honestly, Kevin has offered us, and we did it for giveaways. I didn't get anything from him. We did it for giveaways. I bought his Kickstarter. Again, he's a small company. I don't want to take from him. So, I mean, would I ever ask in the future? Like, well, if it's something I'm not exactly as interested in, I might say, well, if you comp it to me, I'll cover it. But I feel, I don't know. I just feel dirty about that. It's like, no, they're businessmen. They, you know, I don't want to, when I finally finish my book in like 2036, I don't want to have to just give it to everybody for free. You know, just, you knew me back when. Like, no. I make like an overhead of like $1 on the $60 book. I'd rather not give it to you for free.
No, exactly. And anyways, it's a super interesting dynamic. I'm assuming that's a beer.
It is.
Drink.
It's a German beer.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got a few people in chat already. We do see From the Hilt and Per. Yeah, welcome, folks. Nice to see you. I realize I think, these guys are coming over from Bear the Gen X GM. So welcome. Good to see you guys. If you haven't, do go subscribe to Legion of Myth. Fantastic content. We'll say that like 10 times throughout the stream, so don't worry about it. Anyway, so let's go ahead.
Every time.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, is I do like the channel. I do like the approach that you guys have to games, and I should probably save that for later in the interview. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right. So who is MaxLiao? Where are you from?
MaxLiao is the Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation from BattleTech.
Okay.
He died in 3036 under dubious circumstances.
Dubious.
Okay, no. So I mean, I'm not afraid of putting my real name out there. My name is John. I say it every time we do not a Friday Night Chill stream, but the other RPG Die Gest. So again, there you go. You've doxed me. I'm originally born and raised in Minnesota. And oh yeah, I can do the Uper accent if you really want to hear it. I can do the entire stream like this, yeah. So
no.
Oh no, now that I live in Alabama, anytime somebody gets so southern with me, I can't understand them. I'll be like, well, that's an interesting way of speaking. But no, born and raised in Stillwater, Minnesota, then joined the United States Air Force, spent 9 years there, and didn't travel as much as I had hoped. I actually got stuck on Andrews Air Force Base for 6 years, and due to a multitude, not a single one, but a multitude of reasons, I got out after 9 years, and did a bunch of things after that. Everything from counting candy bars, literally a job I had, to stacking those Velcro things that you put on. They're like the little Velcro Scotch things that you put on like the back of pictures and so forth. Yeah, I worked on a machine that cut those things up. And then I decided, maybe I should be an adult. And so then I became a contractor for about 12, 13 years working for DOD. And now I'm a government civilian working for DOD. And I literally work in wargaming.
We will definitely get into whatever you're allowed to talk about. Sure. That I do want to know more. But so you say you were in the Air Force for 9 years. Had you when you went in, were you planning on going career, or just it was the 90s and
I was supposed to be a linguist because at that time I could speak French and Russian. Now I can say a couple words still. Long story short, I had a questionable incident. I got fired from Burger King. which that
was your questionable incident?
Yep. I'll tell that story when I'm really drunk sometime because it's long. But no, not the firing, but the fact that I didn't become a linguist. So I called my recruiter. I was allowed to call my recruiter, and I said, "Hey, I'm not getting the job that I was supposed to have a guaranteed job for. All these other jobs suck, and I will punch my TI. He might kill me, but I will punch my TI if I don't get a good job." No, hold on. Give us a day or two.
I'll get my one hit in.
Yeah. I'll get my one hit in, but then he'll crush me like a bug because even though he was like 2 feet shorter than me. I mean, I'm not a tall guy, but he's a really short dude. He was massive. If I turned sideways, you couldn't see me. I was two-dimensional. I barely made weight standards to get into the Air Force. In fact, I was so skinny. Wish that was the case now. So I ended up becoming a graphic artist. And the career field doesn't exist anymore. It falls under public affairs now, but I was a graphic artist for my time in the Air Force.
Okay. I know you've mentioned that before, and talking about like literal old school ways of doing graphic arts that were probably outdated even when you started doing
I used a typesetter. I've used that machine was big and it had a little LED screen. Yeah, I used a typesetter. What else did I use? Old vinyl cutters. I actually made a logo for my car on a vinyl cutter for training. But anyway, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So then, so how did you end up in the contracting world? I don't see the Air Force as needing to contract a lot of graphic designers.
No, so funny you say that. I got out and I learned very quickly that I squandered my Air Force career. And what I mean by that is I was that guy that's like, dude, you're going to pay me if I get up in the morning anyway. So no, I'm not going to go to extra training. No, I'm not going to, unless you force me to go, I wasn't going to do it. I just want to work 9 to 5, do my thing. Well, I got out and come to realize that every kid with a pirated version of Photoshop, this is 2001. So every kid with a pirated version of Photoshop was doing graphics work that a normal person would get paid $1,500 for like $50 under the table. So I couldn't get a job in graphics.
Right.
And to be fair, I'm not a good artist. I'm great at layout and design. I am not a good artist. So yeah, and then man, in the interview process was just ridiculous. Some of the reasons why I didn't get jobs in those interviews are comical. I don't have time to talk about all that now, but I mean, they are really comical as to why people didn't hire me for things. So I tried to get back into the Air Force. And a senator in Minnesota, Paul Wellstone, unfortunately, he's passed now. He died in a plane crash. And I won't get political here, but just know that he is not a guy I would vote for. But he was the only one to truly help me out.
Sure.
And I have nothing but utter respect for him, his family, and so forth. But he helped me out. It took a year and a half to get me, it took about a year of actual work to get me back in the Air Force. I went to MEPS again, about to get back into the Air Force after being out, lost all my time in grade, but at least I got to keep it. And then they disqualified me for my eyes.
Oof.
I was like,
Man.
wait a second. And I literally asked this question. So it's okay for me to be in with these eyes, but not get back in with these eyes? He looked at me and said, yes. I was the first person in the state of Minnesota to be denied reentry into the Air Force after 9/11.
Wow.
I was told that by my former recruiter.
So my story is not as cool. I did Army ROTC in high school.
Okay.
And then, but I that was because that was the one that they offered. You know how it is in the high schools. But then I went to Air Force ROTC for college. And I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I went on my mission, come back, and go talk to the commandant of cadets at the university. She's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be great. Come on in. We'll have you. It'll be great." But there was some captain there. I have no idea what his job was, and he didn't want me there. End of that semester, the commandant leaves, gets transferred somewhere else. And I get a phone call. Yeah, you're not in anymore. And I'm like,
wow,
what?
I'd never heard of that happening. Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, but why? And then actually, I think this was post 9/11 as well. And I asked why. He's like, well, you'll have to come into my office. It's like, okay, I'm married, I'm working. You can't just tell me on the phone. Nope. Okay,
that's odd. That's very odd.
So. Anyways, that was the extent of my military career. But, yeah.
Well, you might have saved yourself some heartache, because I'll be honest with you right now, I'm not the biggest fan of what's going on with the military in the last couple of years. But yeah, from there, so what ended up happening is I had the strangest interview. So I worked at Target Direct for the Christmas season, driving a forklift. Yeah, I have a forklift license, and.
What can't Max do?
I am. It's seriously, people have said this in the past. I'm a jack of all trades, but literally a master of none, because anybody can do whatever I do better, but I've done a little bit of everything. And I was telling people about what I did and what like my background was. And this one guy was always playing practical jokes on people, like serious ones, things that right now might get you put in jail. So I get this call at 11 p.m. from a guy saying, hey, want to interview you for a position. I'm like, damn it, Tony. But just on the off chance that it was legit, I let the interview happen. Come to find out it was a legit interview. Thank God, because I almost hung up on him. It's 11 o'clock at night. So the guy's interviewing me, puts me through all the questions, which I got all of them wrong. I'm dead serious. I checked. I got them all wrong. He says, I think you'd be good for this position, but there's one catch. Like, what's the catch? He says, the job's in Kuwait. I said, what's the catch? Okay. Because at that point, I just had a conversation with my mom about 2 weeks prior that said, I think I'm going to commit a felony because at least I'll get 3 hots and a cot. And she was nervous and I was serious. So that's how desperate things were at that time for me, is that or living under a bridge. And I got this call. So I went to Kuwait and that started my contracting career. Went from there, came back home to try to kind of work on my own business. It's where I learned that I can train people in anything, but I am not a salesman. I don't have the empathy for that at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't have time for dumb questions from people that I just don't. And then
Hold
went
on.
to
I've been in your chat before. What do you mean you don't have time for dumb questions?
no, an example is this. Went to a friend's, so I was in personal finance. So I was licensed in mortgages and insurance and securities and so forth. I was Series 6 and 63 licensed, not Series 7 for people, mutual funds, not stocks. But I'd be like, okay, so here's how we do our plans, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, what does a 30-some-year-old know about finance? I don't know. What does a 55-year-old with two RV or two boats and RV he can't afford and a house bill that he's not paying know about finance? Now, I didn't say those words, but you could see it in my eye. Everybody who I talked to said, dude, you can see it in your eyes that you have no time for these people. I'm like, I don't. Like, you've got to get rid of that. I'm like, I can't. So yeah, that didn't work out so well. So I this guy I know who I've actually replaced in 3 different jobs was out in Okinawa. I met him in Kuwait. He was out in Okinawa. He says, I hate this job. You want it? I said, sure thing. Went out to Okinawa. That's where I met my wife. And then from there, I actually started taking my career quite seriously from that point. So as a contractor for a few more years, went out to Ramstein, Germany, where I always wanted to be. I was a contractor there for 4.5 years, and then I got to slide over to a government position. Had to come back to the States first to get hired, but I just took over my old job there, and I spent almost 11 years there, and I left kicking and screaming. Cool. Coincidentally, that job just opened up, and I was denied for the job as not qualified. I'm like, I built the place.
How are you not qualified?
I think it's one of those things where they have to do spouse hires and so forth. So.
Oh, got it. Okay. So, I was going to say, I mean, you've mentioned, well, at least when I met you, you'd already been back in the States,
yeah.
Or not met you, but I mean, first found your channel. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have talked about why, how much you regretted leaving Germany.
Oh, this PCS for all the military folks out there. And I see that there's in one person in your chat is a military person. I have PCS as active duty, a contractor, and civilian. This PCS from Ramstein to here on both ends of the stick was the worst PCS, permanent change of station, for people who don't do military lingo, ever. It makes all of the other ones, all the negative of the other ones, pale in comparison if you combine them up. I dropped $30,000 on this move. And my mentality is if the government moves me there, the government needs to move me back. And I lost $30,000 on this PCS back. So I am a disgruntled employee at the moment, but I work for some really good people right now. And so I don't take it out on them, but absolutely, I will scream that to the high heavens, IG, everybody else. You guys cost me $30,000.
And they won't care.
Nope, not at all. Matter of fact, a lot of people, the guy who replaced me in Germany, he just recently left. That's why the job was open. He said, yeah, he had to leave the Air Force because the Air Force cheats you out of money. He went back to working for the Army.
Oh, wow. So Germany, what was so fascinating to you about Germany? I'm just curious.
My background's German, so like my last name is Flo, and I can actually trace the line back from when we left Germany to me. And there are Schloes that literally live in Germany. If you type in my last name, you'll find out that there's a mayor, Bürgermeister, whatever they call it, of a city up in northern Germany that is literally related to my great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
So,
all right.
Part of that also, I love to travel. Like, I spoke. I made it okay in France, but I spoke French and Russian. I've learned smatterings. I used to be able to speak, Japanese, especially considering my wife's Japanese, but I've lost all of it now. When I was in Kuwait, I learned Arabic. I like to travel, man. I don't do the same type of traveling that a lot of other people do, which is I got to see all the sights. I just love living there and being immersed in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always wanted to go. My dad actually spent some time there in the 60s. That's where he did his mission. And in fact, my brothers were actually born there because my dad graduated college, got a job with American Express. They sent him to Germany. So him and my mom were there for like 4 years. And so I've always wanted to go. In fact, that's where my wife and I was kind of pushing that for our 25th anniversary this year. And we're going to England instead, but
happy wife, happy life, right?
Right. Well, no, it was just a combination of factors as far as, oh, this actually works. Okay, this is what we're doing. But no, I've always wanted to go see the castles, all that kind of stuff. I did German in high school for like 3 or 4 years. Occasionally do it on Duolingo, very, very poorly.
Man, if I could go back to 8th grade, which is where we had German, French, and Spanish, I pardon me for saying this, I don't like the Spanish language. I don't like it. Like, Spanish people are great. I don't like the language, though. So I didn't learn that. German, I thought was going to be too hard. Little did I know it was just basically English.
Right, just move some words around.
Yeah, right. You know, it was like, and so I took French, something that I probably never used in my life. Now, in just weird irony, if you want to call it that, I spoke more Russian in Germany than German.
Okay, like work related or
no, out in town,
traveling around. Okay,
well, out in town. My wife's got a horror story where some Russian guy was trying to like get us to drop him off at a certain spot so he could rob us, and I was like, I wasn't having it. You know? But I made the mistake of accidentally speaking Russian, because I'll do that. I don't know what it is. I did it in high school too. Even in French class, I'd start speaking Russian. Never the other way around.
Well, so when I went on my mission, I went to Brazil. Actually, speaking of doing stuff like that, and the first 2 months, you go to what's called the MTC, the Missionary Training Center,
Okay.
and that's like I was called to Brazil, so I was learning Portuguese, and I distinctly remember like one of the first few days, the teacher asked me to say something in Portuguese, and I heard it, and I started speaking German, and then everyone in the class looks at me and they're like, what? Oh, excuse me, let me try this way. So I totally get that, where you're trying to think of something and then it just doesn't
I mean, I lived in Russia for a short time. I skipped that part of my history. Yeah, I lived in Russia as a homestay for a while, and between my junior and senior year, and that was a great time. I don't want to be honest with you, and this isn't like anything towards you, but just in general in life, I don't like talking about it because I am so embarrassed of how I acted. I think that with some of my live streams can get spicy. I was such an imbecile at 16. I'll tell everybody this. I still feel this today, but it doesn't matter because I'm 49, almost 50 in a couple of months here. In a month, jeez, I'm old. But I've always been like 5 years less mature than my age. And imagine I was 16 acting like an 11-year-old out there. Like, it was, a few years ago, I found my host family again. I sent them a big apology.
Did they ever respond?
Yeah, the dad did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, and the thing is, I think we all do that. I mean, there's that like, even now, every now and again, I'll be like, oh man, that thing I did 30 years ago, that was stupid. And it's like, this is like,
yeah, no, I've regretted this ever since, like, it's just one of those things where once I got turned around in the Air Force when I went to Korea. I was a punk kid. I was getting in trouble all the time. For the military folks out there, I got an Article 15 in tech school for impersonating an officer, security violation, breaking and entering, and a couple other things. For the officer that's out there, I saw your chat. If you know the story of Melberg, look up Fairchild Air Force Base, Dean Melberg. I had a run-in with him at my tech school, and I know all about him, and he haunted me for a few years of my career too. But if you look that up, absolutely. He's the reason I got an Article 15. If you know who I'm talking about, you probably hate me now because of that entire incident, what he did. But anyway, I wasn't the cause of it, though. I just didn't help any. but yeah, no, I mean, I was really, really, really immature. But I had a supervisor who stuck his neck out for me named Sergeant Chambers. Dude, fantastic, like mentored me and did things that nobody else ever did. And I literally saw him stick his neck out for me almost on a chopping block. And he got tore into by a chief in front of me. And I learned right then and there that, okay, I'm the one in the wrong, that this big organization that should make sense doesn't, because it's government. And it was the impetus I needed to start growing up. And my career changed literally from that day. And I don't use the word, I know I said it a bunch here, but I don't use the word literally, figuratively.
No, but again, that's one of the interesting things about life, is just things, we're all going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like I've got 3 boys, 2 of them are graduated, one's a senior, and I'm constantly like, hey, you should try this. You should try that. Literally just, this might be a cool experience, but they're going to fight, they're going to push back, whatever. you know there's not much that you can do about it except for hope that 30 years from now they'll look back at it and be like, yeah, that was stupid.
Like my mom said,
Yeah.
you didn't do anything that got yourself killed, so I knew you'd learn.
Right. Well, I mean, I've said for years, I do think that that my or that every kid needs at least one experience where the cops bring them home. I'm not going to arrest you, but you're being stupid enough that we're going to make sure that you are secured somewhere for a little while. And
I didn't have much of that. I mean, the closest was when I got in trouble in the Air Force, but outside of that, I had a couple of times, like when I totaled my car. I actually told the cop, I'm in the back of his car, after I totaled mine, and he gave me my reckless driving ticket and so forth. He's like, we called your stepdad. I was like, can I go to jail instead? Like, no. I'm like, no, really, I would rather go to jail. I don't care. I'd rather go to jail.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. And so that's why I'm saying, we have those regrets, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's who we end up becoming, based on all of that. Clearly, you've made choices, you've made an impact. Like you've garnered this following on your YouTube channel that I can tell are just fiercely loyal, not just even well, at least that's what it looks like to me. I mean,
I could be blind to it. I don't want to just play the humble person because it's right to do. I want to be honest, and I love the fact that they're there. I love my chat, my Discord, all the weirdness that happens, more so than people really might understand. I'm just some weirdo in chat. Well, I'm just some weirdo doing a YouTube video. I really do. I don't know about loyal, but I do get where you're coming from, and I appreciate every moment of that. That's why I love streaming so much. I'm not a social person.
right.
This conversation between me and you probably wouldn't happen in the real world. And it isn't that the digital environment is making it better. It's not that I don't like people in my physical presence. I'm always doing things. To me, everybody's always in my way or bugging me or whatever. But once I get on the stream, whether it's a stream like this with you or somebody on my stream, whatever, like, man, I'm ready. Let's do this. I love talking with you guys.
Yeah. And Mage's musing. Well, loyal, bit of an embellishment, but
thank you for keeping me humble.
But no, I mean, I've told my chat, because I'll do the Friday morning just paint streams where we talk about whatever. For me, like remember back, like, high school, we'd go down to that game store and just hang out.
For us, it was Perkins.
Yeah. Or whatever, wherever it was. But now it's like I'm old, and that requires leaving the house,
putting on pants. What the hell?
Right, exactly. And so being able to just have these streams where we're making friends, finding new people, being able to interact with them, it gives that little social aspect. But then I get to have my stuff, and it's better.
Right.
All right. So gaming. How did you get into gaming? You said you've been playing for 40 years now.
Yeah. That's not an exaggeration, but meaningful gaming for a little, well, maybe quite a bit less. I played my first D&D game in 1983. I was 10 years old. And I was so scared because I went to Lutheran school, and and by the way, so anybody who understands Lutheran synods out there, I'm not going to describe them all to you, but I was Wisconsin synod. So that's the ultra conservative side. So you weren't allowed to talk about Doctor Who. You weren't allowed to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and so forth. So this neighbor of mine, awesome. I snuck and I played, and oh my God, it was the best thing ever because I have a lot of stuff up in here when it comes to imagination. I really do. But I'm not a good artist, so I can't draw it. And I'm not a good writer in terms of creative writing. I'm a technical writer. So like it's so hard for me to get that stuff out. But when I game, I could get it out because I could visualize it. I could see it. I could hear your words, your Dungeon Master words, and I could just be part of it. So I absolutely loved it. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I was 10. The guy who was running the game, I think, was 11. So of course he was an adult to me, right? And I played once, and I remember, you may have heard this story, but I hate bugs, dude. If you want to see me scream, if Room 101 from 1984, see me scream like a little girl, put me in a room of bugs. And we had to fight some giant ants. And of course, my imagination's going wild. 2-foot-long ants with man. I was like, oh my God, no, it's scary. Loved every moment of this. Is why I don't understand the whole concept of safety tools. I don't want safety tools. Take those safety tools off. I want to feel that emotion again. Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. I was biking home that night, and every time I heard a little chitter, it's like 1.5 blocks this way and like 1 block that. It's just a couple blocks. And I'm telling you, every little chitter, every little noise that I heard on the way home was like, ant. Dude, I'm telling you, I was in love from that point on, but I really couldn't do it because it was Dungeons and Dragons. Later on, a couple years later, came across Battle Droid / Battletech, and I was allowed to do that because it was just giant stompy robots. My mom used to actually drive me to friends' houses to go play Battletech, so that was pretty cool. And then I also played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness from Palladium Books and Robotech. So like the giant stompy robots, and those were okay because they weren't my, the dumb cartoon was on TV, even though that's not what the game's about. It's close to the comic book, and again, Robotech, no big deal. It wasn't, satanic witchcraft and so forth. So I was allowed to play those games, and I just absolutely fell in love with them. I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons again until 2nd edition was just released. Yeah. What's funny is my 6th grade Lutheran teacher actually told me to read Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and it was funny because I grew up I'm a few years younger than you. And I remember my mom saying something about being concerned about D&D. And I in 8th grade, I got invited over to a kid's house and we made characters and then never played. But that was the closest that I got until you'll love this, until 3rd edition.
Well, it's hard for me to argue with people who started with 3rd edition, 4th edition, like Basic Expert. He started with 4th edition, right? It's hard for me to argue with people who started that. My grandma, I love my grandma, and Grandma, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but my grandma was part of the old lady whisper network that existed. Again, those old little gossip church ladies. So if it had come out anywhere that I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, that would probably have been the 2nd time in my life I was switched. So,
you got into role-playing games, you got into Battletech. Were there any other games early on, or
not really early on? I didn't understand role-playing at that point. I didn't. I was too young. I didn't have anybody that really taught us. So what I didn't realize is that I was role-playing, and I still do to this day. I was role-playing in Battletech. I read the MaxLiao source book, well, all the source books, and I wanted to play like that person, that faction would do. So if I had a Kurita mech, I was doing Bushido. Okay. I wouldn't leave the battlefield. It was unhonorable, things like that. I was injecting that into the game. It wasn't until I met, and honestly, he was there for it, Von Zark on my Discord. He's my one high school friend that's on my Discord. Him and his group of people got me into their group to play. And from there, again, I was hooked. And I openly played. At this point, I was confirmed. My mom didn't care, yada, yada. She was just happy that I wasn't doing drugs, although they all were. But I didn't. I still to this day didn't. But and I just fell in love with it. And then we started, everybody had to be better. Like, well, you just play D&D. Well, I play this other thing. Well, I play this other thing. So I all of a sudden got exposed to things like Rifts, and I remember them doing Cinnabar, and yes, Cinnabar, and Shadowrun, and Cyberpunk, and I can't remember all the games that we did then. And then I joined the Air Force, played at War Games West, which was in Albuquerque, and was exposed to a million games there. It's absolutely fantastic. And so I like being exposed. I like having a long running campaign, but I also like being exposed to games. So it started for me, in truth. I say 83 because, got to have my street cred, right? But in truth, it started in 89, right after second edition was released. That's when I really dove into it and started to understand what I was doing.
Okay. And so we do have one question from the Hilt wants to know, was role-playing in BattleTech before or after MechWarrior?
Probably during, but we never played first edition MechWarrior. I don't know if you can see them there, but they're on that shelf. I do have the first edition MechWarrior books. My original one got stolen from me when I was in the Air Force, so I had to eBay those two. We never played first edition. The only edition of MechWarrior I played as a role-playing game is second edition, and I really hate the hotshot pilot class, and I hate Edge. But what we found out is by playing BattleTech, we either wanted to play BattleTech or we may as well have played Traveler. And you might hear me say that a lot on my stream when it can be people like, hey, what MechWarrior edition is the best? Probably third because it's got Life Pass and it tries to be a role-playing game. But it either turns into I want to play BattleTech or we're better off playing Traveler. That's just what it turns into. So for me, BattleTech is BattleTech, and I love the cheesy lore and canon of it. Always will. Pre-clan era nonsense. Pre-jihad. Pre-jihad. I and this is why I'm scared to have talk to Blanley Pardo, because I know he's big. He's the major impetus of this Ill-Clan era or whatever. Look, after 3025, I'm not interested in the game, and after about 60, I'm not interested in the novels.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting for me. Like they stopped making the novels, and then the pre-Catalyst company started. No.
Not Tops.
In Media Res.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
So in Media Res. Well, you're thinking.
I'm thinking. Yeah, WizKids Fan Pro. Yeah.
Right. So in Media Res was started by Lauren Coleman, to keep the BattleTech fiction going, because they didn't like the Rock license had expired. Okay. They weren't doing the MechWarrior novels anymore. And so they basically, it was a very early kind of subscription model. So you'd pay like $10 a month.
I remember that. Yeah. That Battle whatever website. I signed up for Battlecore. Yeah. I signed up for it originally when it came out, and then I didn't.
Right. Yeah. I did it for like 4 months too. And basically I ended up falling out with the fiction, not necessarily because I didn't like it, but it's like where you'd had all the BattleTech novels and you're just going chronologically and you're seeing this universe and the world develop. Then they're starting to be like, oh, hey, we're going to do this short story about Alexander Kerensky. We're going to do a novel about the Amorous coup. And then, we're going to do something in the jihad. And they're just jumping all over the place. I'm like, I don't know what to read next. So
I mean, to be fair, I love reading some novels about the First and Second Succession War, but I didn't find the quality of the work there to be on par. And I don't know if Lauren and crew were rushed, because I thought that Lauren wrote some really good Capellan. I mean, the Capellan Solution novels. Right. I thought that those were, again, as a Capellan. I mean, my name is MaxLiao. Come on, as a Capellan supporter.
Let's be honest, there's not many of those.
Right. That's one of the reasons why I kept it all these years, is because it started as my BBS name back in the late 80s. And right. It's gone from MaxLiao with a space to MaxLiao without a space, Maximilian Liao a couple of times when we could have more than 8 characters. But I just went back to MaxLiao. I've never got rid of it, even when I thought about it, because you can never find a Hans Davian or Sun Tzu Liao or anything like that. But Max is always available. But no, I forgot what I was saying because I'm old. All right, whatever I said, there we go.
Yeah. No, it's like just watching the evolution of games is just to me, it's just interesting. Now, like actually, some people are noticing the bookshelves behind you. How many of those are from your early days of gaming, and how many of them are, we'll say, more recent? That's a question I've actually always had.
So they're kind of mixed up, but I mean, I can tell you what's there. My Earth Dawn shelf, which everybody who knows
Drink.
me, I said Earth Dawn now twice. Yeah, ask me
just
about
have water though.
Ask me about the fallout with them. But I'm sorry, I have my Dungeons and Dragons decks above that you can't see, and then I have Earth Dawn. I have Dungeons and Dragons, my mostly Palladium. And then down there, Shadowrun, some 2D20. I have, okay, so starting down that bottom shelf, starts to get into a couple of games I only got recently, like Conan 2D20 that we covered earlier this year.
Right.
Mutant Chronicles, Absolute Power from Discami Publishing, which if you like champion-style games, really heavily point system. And then you can't see the top shelf, but those are, we'll just call them ancillary books, like the old city books or the central casting books, if you know what those are. Paul Jacquet's, I'm sorry, oh crap, she's transgender now. Jaquel Jade, I forget the name. Janae's, that's how far back that those go. But then BattleTech, and then it starts getting to stuff that not so much. Other than, these are all pretty much new for me, even if they're OSR. And really only the Free League ones that I'm pointing at now are the only ones I've really played underneath BattleTech. I mean, OSR is just D&D, so I mean, I can say I've played those. But,
quick question. Per would like to know, which do you find more fun, Robotech or BattleTech, and why?
As a role-playing game, I prefer Robotech because I think the Palladium system is fantastic and it just does a good job of handling roleplay. As giant stompy robots go, I absolutely love BattleTech. In fact, when all my anime nerd friends, I'm sorry, it was Japanimation at the time, that I was making fun of them because they were doing ninja. I don't like ninja robots. I like gritty, dirty, walking tanks that have been around for centuries, and they look just, it's almost like a muscle car. Versus, a crotch rocket. It's just I like the idea of them just being thicker and bulkier and kind of slower, so to speak. So when it comes to tabletop, and I love the BattleTech rules, at least the old ones, because they are simplistic enough but meaningful enough to play the game and have a really great time.
Yeah, so for me, it's a weird mix, because for me, I always focus on story first, and so I found Robotech first. Because I would have been about like 8 or 10. I don't know. I was young. And that's all I knew. In fact, Robotech is actually what got me into gaming, because I was in some hobby store for whatever reason. I know I wasn't there for me. Like my mom had taken me in there for some reason, and I saw the Robotech role-playing game on a little spinner rack. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
That's awesome.
So got that for my birth, but I had one of my grandmas would always just take me out for my birthday, and then I could pick out whatever I wanted, and that's what I wanted that year. And then I would take it with me to school, and some kid saw it. He's like, "Oh, if you like that, you should look at BattleTech, because it's an actual game that you can play with the big stompy robots." And so then it's just like, okay. So for me, it's hard to say, oh, I like this one or that one better, just because I look at them as they're related but completely separate properties, and they've both got their own good stories.
One of my issues with modern BattleTech is it seems that they've really tried to sleek the mechs up and make them more rounded and so forth. It's like, no, man, big blocky, those loose drawings, man, loose. You're the best BattleTech artist there was. Some of the mechs might look goofy. I know people complain about the Centurion. I love it. Of course, my mech is the Vindicator, Capellan Confederation, right? No, I like, because it gave that feel, that mystique. Even when they copied the Veritex, they somehow made them look blockier, and I'm like, good on you.
Yeah, no, and the funny thing is, like, I'm mixed, because I like the new art as I do like the new art. I try to not say that it's better. There are some that, let's be honest, the old art, even from Mr. Loose, was like pretty bad.
I mean, the Ostmex, yeah.
Yeah, I never on like because I always wanted to find which were the Robotech ones, and somebody's like, oh, the Ost ones are the battle pods. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah,
Because that doesn't look like
they're from something from Robotech. I mean, the Marauders, obviously the Officer's Battle Pod. Yeah,
right, clearly. But yeah, it was. But I think the new art at least just looks more realistic, is the way I would put it. Whereas, some of the old art doesn't. But for me, that's the other thing, is that the old art, that's what like sings to me as like the iconic art.
Well, BattleTech was a caricature, and that's the one thing that I think a lot of Catalyst has done to ruin it, is it's not a caricature. 5 houses based on tropes that would never exist in the future. We lost technology due to war. Like, no, that's exactly opposite how it works, but who cares? It made for a fun and interesting big hair. Like, okay, how come all the guys have to shave their heads to wear these big bulky neuro helmets, but none of the women do? That's just really weird. But who cares? Let's get in there and play the game, and like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
No, right. As soon as you said that, I started thinking of the Black Widow cover.
Yep.
And I was like, yep. Natasha Kerensky. Yep. That's full on 80s hair right there. But no, that's the I mean, remember
Space Japan, Space Balkans, Space Bushido. I should have said Bushido, but Space Sweden. Come on. I mean, I'm telling you, I loved it. And the clans. Let's be honest. Space Native America coming back to reap its revenge. Like, okay, this is all, to me. This is all fun. But yeah.
So
Star Wars D6.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Chris had mentioned a little earlier. First RPG ever played was Star Wars. My brother thought my friend and I were dorks. I think my brothers still think that I'm a dork, but
it's mainstream now. That's part of the problem to me, is that being a nerd used to be something that I wouldn't talk so loudly in anime. I'd be like, yeah, I play D&D. How about you? Let's go talk over there. Now it's like everybody's a nerd, and it's like, are you though? Did you get thrown a lot? Did you get put up on a flagpole and have your belt loop break? Did you get squished between lockers? I don't know if you're really a nerd if some of these things didn't happen.
See, the funny thing is, I was always the nerd. That friend that I mentioned earlier, where we've been friends since high school, I met him my freshman year in German class, and I had my Robotech role-playing game book out on the desk, and I was just making a character. And he literally, we met because he started making fun of me for it. Didn't care.
I did. I absolutely, dude, because I came from Lutheran school to public school. That already was a big knock against me. And I didn't know how to act in public. I had to go to, no, seriously, I had to be hidden away from people by the school counselors because of stuff that either I would do or they would do to me. So yeah, the junior high is not a time in my life. Senior high wasn't so bad. Senior high kind of started to grow up and people started calming me down, but junior high is not a time in my life I'd like to relive. But I had a Robotech book out one time and somebody ripped it in half.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I luckily didn't have that issue. But the funny thing is that again, this was a conversation my friend and I have had recently. He's like, yeah, I eventually felt so bad about it that I'm like, I need to go talk to the guy. And here we are 30 years later and absolutely love the dude.
That's awesome.
So, you don't necessarily have to hide being a nerd, but I understand where you're coming from.
Well, understand that somebody got suspended or expelled from my school for saying this on a news broadcast one time. But in my school, there were 3 types of people. There were the druggies, the jocks, and the nerds. There's actually a 4th. We had the emos or the goths also, but they usually hung out with the druggies. I played sports. I was on the football team. I was on the basketball team. I didn't play hockey because I was too poor, and hockey's an expensive person sport. But I played on the tennis team. I played sports. I was a jock also, and it didn't matter.
Right. I mean, well, and you've talked about how, you're growing up, that your groups did kind of cross all of those lines.
Me, I was the oddball in that one. My druggie
Okay.
friends talk. If you again on my Discord, if you ever talk to Von Zark, he didn't cross any of those lines. He only hung out with what would be the druggies. I was the only one that bridged that gap, and it's weird because I kind of feel like that now when we talk about D&D and so on and so forth. I kind of bridge the gap between the grognards and the newer players because how I come in. At work, I bridge the gap between, we'll just say, the woke people and the hardcore Christians because I've been on both sides of that in terms of discussions, hobby, former life and so forth. I find myself in that a lot, but that also ostracizes me because nobody. Okay, I'm injecting words here, but conceptually, nobody feels they can fully trust me. I'm not one. He's not really one of us.
Well, that's an interesting way to put it. I don't know. Anyway, we'll come back to that one, I think.
I don't mean that as seriously as it sounds, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like, the good news is I can bridge those gaps. The bad news is, I'm never fully invested in what other groups do because I'm me.
Yeah, no. And that's actually kind of an interesting thing. Like in my family, I am literally the oddball. Like I love going to family get-togethers. If my brothers and sisters are there, that's great. But chances are I'm not in the conversation because they're talking about, some trip to Europe that they made or, some other current event thing that if I start talking, I'm going to piss somebody in the family off. And let's just say we're not all that dissimilar in what we think politically, but I'd still piss someone in the family.
my family said old school, don't talk about. You don't talk about religion, politics, finances. You don't talk about any of that. It was a real fun time when I was working in personal finance. Why are you in people's business like that? Well, I'm trying to actually help people. Well, I'm trying to help people. Like, really, it helped. No, seriously, I learned so much being in personal finance that turned my life around in terms of finances. I'm not rich right now by any stretch of imagination, but I understand how to handle money a heck of a lot better. And when it comes time, I will be able to retire. Unlike, pretty much everybody that I knew growing up.
This guy. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but yeah, for me, even sitting with the family, like chances are I've got my iPad, I'm reading a book, because of you, probably a Palladium book lately, although I'm all over the place. But yeah, so it is definitely interesting to see how nerd culture has shifted. The thing that I would say is, yes, it's a lot more visible, but I do also kind of wonder how much of it is legitimate, for lack of a better way to put it. Like especially like I'm gonna use this name just because it's like I don't necessarily know for certain either way, just my personal opinion, but like someone like Ginny D, not saying she doesn't do bad or that she does bad content, but it's like, would you honestly be doing this kind of content if you didn't see it as some sort of a profitable enterprise?
I struggle with people like that because I don't want to disparage anybody who's in it for good intentions. Look at Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's been playing D&D since before it was cool, right?
Right.
So I don't ever want to disparage somebody like that. And I'm not going to fault her for marketing herself through it. Like, I'm the type of person that says, hey, if you've got the goods and you can get people to sign up to your channel and throw money at you, then by all means, I'm not gonna bust your balls for that. The flip side of it, I don't think it's her that's the problem for me. For me, it's the simps that follow her.
Right.
Thinking that she's like this treasure trove of information when like we did a video on this and it's one of our nastier videos. Like, hopefully we talk about that later, that we have two sides to us, where we go after her pretty hard because somebody who's been in the hobby for 2 or 3 years does not get to give me suggestions. You do not have advice for me. I'm sorry, that I said that backward. You do not have advice for me. You can give me suggestions. You can throw out your ideas. Every human on this planet can do this. But if you've been in the hobby for 2 to 3 years, You have literally no advice you can give me. You have not been around long enough. I will hear you, but that's not advice. That's just a possible, have you thought of things this way? And that's where I have the problem with people like her coming across as authority. And then you have all these, 14-year-old simps who listen to her like, she said it, so it must be true. It's like, no, it's not true at all.
Right.
To be fair, the way I do things isn't 100% true at all. It works for me. But
sure. And that's why I wanted to specify that I don't think she makes bad content. Just that, I like, and it's not even just her. There are a lot of other channels that that I do kind of have that same general idea.
I guess for me, my problem is I don't care that she's marketing herself like that, and I don't care that this is what she does, and I don't even care if the only reason she's doing it is for the money. She doesn't even like the game. She is a spokesman for it that brings people to hobby, and most people be like, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? No. And this is where I'm going to differ with a lot of people. Might get some flack in chat, and I am reading it. So get ready with the flamethrowers. I don't want more people in the hobby. What? Yes, I said that. When it was uncool, we were clamoring for more people. Please, I'd love to find just 2 more gamers. That would be just absolutely amazing. But after seeing how it's been clouded with people who don't respect it, I'm not saying you can't do things differently. I'm not saying you can't make some change, that things don't evolve or grow, but literally don't respect the past. Think everything about his past or is bad, is wrong, is we have to get rid of it. No, get out of the hobby. Get out. Get out. Somebody has to educate you as to why these traditions, why these tropes exist. And then if you still change it, that's fine. Go make your own thing. Go do your own thing. But don't come into what I've already had for 40 years and make changes. Whether it's a dumb disclaimer at the front of a book or not printing it anymore because it's got some sort of thing in there you don't like, or just completely, 3rd edition D&D, gutting the game and making something new. It shouldn't even have the ampersand on it. Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition is not D&D. I don't care what anybody says. It's WotC Fantasy Role-Playing 1st edition. 5e is WotC Fantasy Role-Playing 3rd edition. It's gutted everything that made the heart and soul of D&D.
Yeah, and I think there is some argument there. I mean, I'll disagree with you a bit on not wanting more players in the hobby, but I will agree with what I've heard you say before, that while gaming is not for everyone, anyone can.
Yeah, it can be for everyone, but it isn't for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I think it is fun. Like I'll admit, I'm a sucker for a lot of like just the nerd merchandising, because it's like, oh, I like those things. And as a kid, just they didn't exist. But yeah, I think Per also makes a good point. I want more quality players in the hobby.
But what is quality? See, that definition, I'm not arguing with Per at all. But that definition means different things to different people. My specificity for that is I want people who respect their traditions and tropes of. Well, again, if we're talking Dungeons & Dragons, I want you to respect basic Dungeons & Dragons. I want you to respect AD&D 1st and 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. That was all thrown out with 3rd edition. And so I don't feel that WotC respects the IP at all, other than as a money grab. And most of the players who came into the hobby, like I just saw somebody in there say she started with a 4th edition. I get it. And I will never convince you. And I understand that. You started late. I will never convince you that, hey, your edition was the bad one. And I don't want to do that. All I want is people to go back and look why things were. Why do people like me get mad at the idea of a gnome paladin? Why do people like, heck, let's go back further. Why do people like, well, not me, but, like me, get mad at dwarf being anything other than the word dwarf?
Right.
Race as class. So, again, I'm for, you've heard my train stop theory, right? Or analogy?
I don't think so.
This hobby started thousands of years ago when people were role-playing soldiers, in Greek times or whatever. But as a book, it started essentially with chainmail and then, OD&D and so forth, moving on from there. Every one of those is a train stop. If you want to play Fate, you get off at the Fate train stop. If you want to play 3rd edition D&D, get off at the 3rd edition train stop. You want to play Big Eye, Small Mouth, get off at that one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every one of these things of additions of game or styles of play or settings and so forth is all its own train stop, and you're welcome to get off at any one. There are thousands of train stops for you to get off on. Don't come in and F with mine. That is really, and don't look back at mine as if everything we did was problematic and oh my God, you play that game from the 70s. It has all these evil things in it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's really my only issue. You don't respect. Look, people like Max, what about dwarves and blah? We joke about the dwarf wizard thing with Victor, right? Because it is a joke and we have fun with it. Yeah, don't play a gnome paladin around me. Caveat: Palladium allows it. I don't argue about it. Earthdawn doesn't have paladins, but it's almost all race, all class. You can be pretty much anything. Dwarves certainly can be wizards in Earthdawn. I don't complain about it because it's its own thing. It didn't go back and retcon everything that was bad. I don't care if you make something new and different. And Chris, at your table, you might have the beard, you might not. And really it comes down to, for me, is pushing back against the idea that everything, like some of the old first edition players don't like me because I'm a second edition player. That's fine. I don't care. I respect how they play the game. What I don't respect is when somebody says, "Oh, I play old white box D&D, but I don't use I don't have any race class limitations and so forth." It's like, then you're not playing old D&D.
No, exactly. I mean, there are, like, I actually really like that train stop analogy, and you kind of alluded to it without using the terms, but also the Chesterton's fence analogy. You haven't heard that? Okay,
at least not by that term. Huh?
Well, it's the I've literally heard it like 4 times this week on like Tim Pool and a couple of others, but like here's a fence, and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I'm going to tear down that fence," and it's like, wait, hold on, until you can tell me why that fence is there in the first place, I'm not going to let you tear the fence down. Because, is it there to keep the wolves out? Is it there to keep the sheep in? Is it there to, designate who owns what piece of land? What is it? Because if you're just annoyed because the fence has always been there, that's not a good enough reason to get rid of it. So even in gaming rules, just because the rule is, 50 years old, doesn't mean that that's necessarily a rule that has to be thrown out. I'm
a huge proponent of spirit of the law over the letter of the law. So because apparently there's some people in chat who haven't seen me rant about this before, which is good. That's good.
Friday nights, check out the Friday night chill stream. You can see more of this kind of ranting.
Well, I say a few more poo-poo words there, but no, I'm not into railroad game style. So let me be clear. So in the back of the first edition Dungeon Master, is it Dungeon Master Guide or Player's Handbook? Either one. Gary Gygax says game first, campaign second, players third. I disagree with Gary. Setting first. If your setting allows dwarven wizards, I'll roll my eyes at it. But that's your setting. You do what you want. What I have a problem with is the core game changing to the point to be like, oh yeah, dwarven wizards. Because when you change that, and of course the argument always is, well, you can still do what you want. You can still say no. No, it is really hard to say no to people when it's in the core book. And I don't mean like as in me saying no to you. I mean as general game masters saying no to players because it's in the core book. And then it turns into a defensive game where you have to explain to them why. But if your setting has a gnome paladin, again, I'm going to roll my eyes at it. But that's your setting. You do what you want. Don't put it in the core book.
Yeah,
it's Mages. You're good. You're good. I'm lumping you all in with a bunch of the chat that's out there. As far as a DMG, okay. My thing, I'm a firm believer. I love Dragonlance. And if you really want to get picky about it, you can look at it and say, well, Dragonlance doesn't have paladins. It has 3 different Knights of Solamnia. You're right. Wizards are basically clerics that just don't want to admit it. Like, because they have the moons of magic and they have limited schools based on which alignment they are. There are a lot of different changes, but that's a setting, but it still keeps the core dynamic of D&D. Elves are still elves, dwarves are still dwarves. And to me, it's that feel, that tone, that spirit that is more important. To somebody else, and I play with people like this, no, the rules are what matter. That changing ascending to descending or descending to ascending armor class, that's the big problem. I get it. I'm less concerned about that than I am about the feel. If third edition had came out with all of its rules, minus feats, and said, but these are still the classes for gnomes, these are still the classes for dwarves, these are still the classes, for humans, etc., I probably wouldn't have as much of an issue with it.
Yeah, no, and I actually am kind of there with you. And just to make sure, you said it was campaign first, game second, player third.
Setting first, which I intertwine with campaign, but people get argumentative about that, rightly so. So setting first, whether it's the Dragonlance setting, the Dark Sun setting, your own homebrew setting, the Greyhawk setting, Mystara setting, whatever setting first. The setting is what details everything about the world that the characters are going to be in. And then that world, that setting, while it might tweak them, effectively house rules. And yes, I'm a firm believer in house rules. The core of the game still remains. You're still rolling a d20. You still have the attribute checks. You still have the non-weapon proficiencies if you're playing second edition. You still have the same, saving throws and so forth. Yeah, house rules, absolutely.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. One thing, now I will admit I have not played it, but one thing that I actually disagree with you on is that that Savage Riffs isn't riffs.
It's not. We told that to Kevin and Sean.
Oh no! Trust me, I was watching that stream. I was driving back from Vegas, so like my reception was absolutely horrible that day. But no, I remember that stream, and I know he's defended it 8 ways from Sunday. I know there's no excuse, but man, Heathen Dog went just ape on,
after the stream, and I don't know if I've said this publicly before, but after the stream, Kevin and Sean thanked us.
Sure.
Because they're like, and I don't like talking about things that we talk about after the stream, so I'm going to reword this to Max's words.
Sure. So
that I'm not quoting them. But essentially, it's like, you know what? We're on these streams. Everybody asks the same questions. When did you get into gaming? Why does this rule not work? Blah, blah, blah. He said, man, you guys are passionate about what you do. and we can tell. And the thing is we're passionate because we love it.
Yeah,
we do. No. With all of its foibles, again, I can accept foibles. I can accept flaws. I can accept idiosyncrasies. Absolutely. Kevin and Sean are truly fans of the fan. And I know there's a lot of hatred out there for Palladium books, and that saddens me because I'll talk to anybody about Palladium books. Kevin and Sean, whatever you think of those books, really do love the fans and want to make you something that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just saying about that particular stream, just about how we'll say aggressive.
Oh yeah,
Heathen Dog was that day,
yep.
But it was still an absolute blast to watch. But I totally forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I do that, man.
So do I. Don't feel so bad now.
the channel's called Gaming with ADHD for a reason. I mean,
yeah, I keep getting sidetracked because I love reading chat. I'm telling you, one of my favorite things when I stream even is reading chat. I don't know why. I love seeing what people are saying in chat.
Well, that's part of why we do it. I mean, if like otherwise it's just like, oh, I'm going to disable chat because why not?
Even when chat's lighting me up, I still like to read it. And believe me, on my show, they can light me up. But I've learned so much from the chat as well. I'll never tell them that on my own live stream, but I've learned a lot from chat as well. Things that were misconceptions of mine. Now there's still some things I hold on to, but yeah.
Sure.
But as far as like the Palladium Rifts versus Savage Rifts, I'm one of those people that absolutely believes that game system matters. A game system will change the feel of a game for me. And Savage Worlds, I have nothing against Savage Worlds. I think Savage Worlds in and of itself is a great system, and I think more people should play it. But it does not capture Rifts. It just doesn't.
So then why doesn't
it can't do justice to the juicer without adding in like a whole book's worth of rules? And that's what there is. The Tomorrow Legion has a whole book's worth of rules. It can't capture even something like the Burster. It just can't capture it outside of you saying this is what you are and having a little tweak. Rifts gets into the nitty gritty, and I'm normally not for crunchy games. Palladium's like the only crunchy system, really heavily detailed system that I like anymore.
Sure.
And it's that detail is what separates every one of the OCCs apart. And Savage Worlds just doesn't lend to that. Can you say hey, I'm running a Rifts-like world? Absolutely. Can you say I've got Borgs and Juicers and Crazies and Scholars and Leyline Walkers and so forth? Oh my, you absolutely can, but it is not the same feel in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. I will have to try it. I say that because I am actually friends with Shane Hensley of Pinnacle. But that was actually one of the interesting things, because like I haven't heard as much grief about Savage Rifts until I found Legion of Myth. But no, it's fine. I don't mind that I disagree with you. It's just it's been really interesting to get that feel. But for me, I've heard so many people complain about the Palladium system over the years, and trying to port it over to Savage Worlds was like the thing that I heard the most often. Sure. So when I heard about Savage Rifts, it was interesting just because, okay, hey, this is what a lot of people playing are wanting to do, and it's actually official. So
I mean, if you just want the idea of having these types of characters, over the top characters or classes, whatever, in the game, you can do it. But you can do that in any game. I can do it in Hero System. I can do it in GURPS. I can do it in First Edition Mech Warrior. I can find a way to make it work. Like, you can find a way to make it work. But as somebody who believes that tone, setting, feel, again, I'm all about spirit of the law, not the letter of the law, is more important. Savage Rifts isn't Rifts. Somebody else who wants a cleaner system, who can actually sit there and say, look, a Borg is a Borg is a Borg. I don't care what setting you use and what IP you use, and can still see it as the same. That person's going to disagree with me, and that's okay. I'm right. That person's wrong. Welcome to Friday Night Chill stream. No, but it's Sean. Sean writes Savage Rifts.
Yeah,
and his exact words were, if I'm allowed to say this on your streamer, is like, opinions are like assholes. And the thing is that was the perfect answer. You don't have to agree with me.
Sure.
You don't. I'm not going to make you agree with me, but I'm going to stand my ground and tell you why it's that way. And if you disagree with it, there's the door, or I can hit the door, or we can just say we agree to disagree.
Well, it hasn't offended me enough to stop watching your channel. Ooh. So there's that. But I completely spaced.
There's so many things that we can talk about. I get it. We could be here for 9 hours and you won't let me.
Well, I can't. I have to work tonight.
Oh,
anyways,
call in sick.
I will tell you off stream.
Call in streaming.
I will tell you about I'll tell you something after we're done. Okay. But yeah, it's still interesting just to kind of see that play, that back and forth in the different options out there. Mm-hmm. So all right, so we've been going for about wow, holy crap, we're at about an hour and 15.
Wow. Does not feel like it. I'm having fun.
No, it doesn't at all. And that's why I'm like, oh, are we going? And all right, I'm getting stop, focus. Okay, so you've been playing for years. Actually, that's one thing that I do want to ask. Mm-hmm. Where did you meet Heathen Dog?
In the Air Force.
Okay.
So I got to Andrews Air Force Base before him, and there was a group that was already playing second edition AD&D. I got involved in that, and I don't remember exactly date, time, or who met whom first and so forth, but at some point there, he entered our group, and I don't even remember what his first game. I don't think he was in our AD&D game. I think the first game he played in with us was either my Earth Dawn game or it was one of the Palladium games. but he'd have to answer that. I honestly don't remember, but he ran Mage. What else did he run? He ran something else there. He didn't run Rifts, believe it or not. He was a player in the Rifts game. Yep, I don't remember, but he ran the Mage game. But yeah, I met him in the Air Force on Andrews Air Force Base.
Okay, and so then just kept in touch over the years.
Yeah.
And okay.
Interestingly, we didn't talk for a long time because until recent events have occurred, him and I politically were diametrically opposite, and it would lead to unfriendly conversations. Because you can tell that he's very, I'm very blunt, and he's very, on point, we'll say. So, yeah, I actually hung out with who we call Garthon more in terms of talking. But with the Legion Myth Weekly live stream, which is the first live stream we really had, he came on board and he actually knocked it out of the park. I thought that it was going to be a kind of a problem, but he's a good filler in. No, he knocked it out of the park. And when that finally ended after 200 and some odd episodes, I wanted him on for this, not knowing exactly how it was going to work out. But it's worked out wonderfully. And yeah, we don't agree on everything. There's some sparring behind the scenes, but honestly, no, he's been doing his part and knocking it out of the park. So good on him.
Okay. I bring him up because I wanted to now get into where did Legion of Myth come from?
All right. So back in the days, if you play MMORPGs?
I do.
Awesome.
Sometimes. I haven't for years, but
do you know the MMORPG Shadowbane?
I know I've played it.
It was a PvP game. And so we were part of a group called Order of the Blade, which was part of a larger group called Warrior Nation. Loved Order of the Blade. Some weirdos in there, but loved it. It was a role-playing PvP thing. In fact, that's kind of the name behind Legion of Myth, was the fact that we can both role-play and PvP in an MMO. Well, Warrior Nation or Order of the Blade backstabbed Warrior Nation, or Warrior Nation backstabbed somebody. And anyway, a bunch of us were like, what the heck? This isn't what we're about. We're supposed to be Crusaders. We're supposed to be, Templars. We're forthright and truthful. And we backstab people? What kind of role play is that? So a few people said, hey, screw this route. And believe it or not, I'm actually not the original founder of Legion of Myth. I came in a day later, before it had a name, though. And they said, you know what, we think we're going to bail on this. We're going to go into other MMOs, blah, blah, blah. So me being a web designer, I helped out. I was the one that named it. I'm the one. The reason it stuck with me is because I'm the one that did all the work for it outside of the in-game activities. And I'm not disparaging anybody else. It's like when it really needed to be held up, it was all me. A lot of good people in there, a lot of good founders. Again, if Rooks or somebody's around, I don't want to disparage them. But anyway, it stuck with me. That's how it started. We became a multi-guild organization. The biggest guild we ever had was 400 and some odd members inside World of Warcraft, which I didn't play because I played it in beta and thought the game was garbage. To this day, you've probably heard me rail about World of Warcraft on my streams.
Max, you are super opinionated.
No, I have no opinions at all. And then from there, we died when I went to Japan, so to speak. I came back to the States and we decided to become a gaming organization, not just MMORPGs. And what we did is we held contests for magazine covers. We talked about board games. We talked about mostly computer games, because that's where we kind of had our background, tabletop role-playing games and so forth. I did a lot. We had movie reviews. We had a lot of stuff that we did on a website. And I don't remember what happened, but there's a falling out there and it kind of died. We came back again for Mech Warrior Online. And we merged with a Capellan organization, which has a lot of great people in it, but also has a lot of toxic people in there. And it basically destroyed Legion of Myth. And it was partially because I was trying to enforce some sort of standards. They didn't want any standards. I wasn't the leader of it, yada, yada. And it pretty much destroyed us. So I took a break. I talked with Garthon and Rooks at that time. Rooks, I was... For anybody who's like, you're dead naming. Well, Rooks is dead naming. Yes, he's now a she, Liliandra, but I'm time stamping. I said, hey, I want to do live streams. And I've shown some of them. So I want to do live streams. I used to like Angry Joe back in the day. I say, I want to do an Angry Joe type live stream where it's like we talk about games and we're opinionated. Oh, weird, huh? And we're passionate about it. And Garthon said no. He said he'll only do it if we keep it family friendly. I said, great googly moogly. And so I was like, fine, we'll do that. It didn't do all that great. I moved to Germany. Rooks backed out. Actually, Rooks just fell off the planet at that time, was going through his transition. We didn't know that. So that's when I brought Heathen Dog in and a couple other people. And then Legionsmith Weekly Livestream, after however many years we did that, never got traction. And so I did an exit poll. It's like, why? How is it that we have great comic book reviews, we have great anime reviews, and we have these tabletop things, and all family friendly, all like, what's going on here? Why aren't people watching it? And the number one response is, and I get it, but Heathen Dog does not at all, is I'm only here for anime. I'm only here for tabletop RPGs. I'm only here for comic books. I don't care about the rest. And Heathen Dog, being the nerd that he is, like, I don't get it. Either you do all or you do none. I'm like, dude, look at me. I don't like comic books. Well, I don't care about comic books, and I don't really care about anime. My wife's Japanese. I only like tabletop role-playing games and some video games. He's like, yeah, but we always thought you were weird. I'm like, well, the exit poll shows that I wasn't the weird one here. So we retooled it. I said, I want to do this now. I'm going to be part of this, especially since Garthon was a little upset with me. Deservedly so. I pushed those guys pretty hard, being the producer of everything from Germany. The reason I wasn't on the show is because I was in Germany. And it would be at 2 a.m. for me, and that just wasn't doable. So I was the producer of the show, and I was riding those guys pretty hard. And they finally, after a couple of years, got fed up of it. So I said, well, I'm going to do the show then. I'm going to be on there, but it's not going to be family friendly. We're going to do things. We're going to have a family friendly aspect of it, which was the old segment 1, and then we're going to have a not family friendly aspect of it, which was the old segment 2. And our numbers blew up. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a small channel. I'm not sitting here thinking I'm a big channel. I have 4,000 subscribers. That's nothing in the world of YouTube. So by all means, I'm not sitting here, look at me, I'm great. But it absolutely worked for us. And then we hit a doldrum. And in talking with people, some people only wanted the rants. Some people didn't like the rants. So that's why in 2023, I converted it to the Sunday stream is game only. Friday night is the rant. And it's been working. It's been working for us. Some people still miss the segment 2s, but I don't want to bring that back. It was also hard to rant that often. A lot of people don't realize this. I'm opinionated, but it is really hard to rant that often 2 days a week. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, I don't even know how I found your channel. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even say I was looking for this one particular thing. I just know something was suggested. Actually, I think the first thing I watched might have been like your first interview with Servant of Shiloh.
Okay.
Because
by the way, I love RPG Elite, Servant of Shiloh. I think he's a great guy. Don't agree with everything he says, but he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he number one, just you're right, absolutely fantastic guy. As far as his content, I agree. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he puts out, like gaming wise, but it at least makes you think. Exactly.
And that's what's important. He even said that on our stream. It's like, yeah, I knew that the name RPG Elite was going to get people angry. Yeah. But that's fine. And the thing is you have to remember, a lot of people don't like to think about this, especially in the old YouTube days where everything was a tutorial. With live streaming, YouTube is an entertainment platform. My objective is to make you feel things. And if one of them is anger, I'm okay with that.
Just don't get the channel deleted. Well, the wife might like that a little more, but that's
I've got Rumble. I get deleted off YouTube.
So why did you want to get into YouTube and doing all the streams and stuff? Yeah.
Because I'm a narcissist. I say that somewhat tongue in cheek. Look, anybody who's known me for any length of time, the only difference you get from me here versus real life is I'm louder. You know, I don't know why I feel like I need to scream into the microphone where I wouldn't necessarily do that amongst my friends. But all of my friends, my entire life, I've been opinionated. I've been a zealot. I've been called a zealot. I've been called the holy schlo. I mean, like I started my own religion type thing because I've always have this passion when I talk. When I was a kid, nobody ever listened to me unless I was passionate. And that just built into me like, okay, I'm going to make you listen. Don't have to agree, just have to listen. So it's just something that is just, yeah. I mean, I kind of forgot the question. See, it happens to me too.
Why you decided you wanted to get into
look, because if I've got things to say and I've got knowledge, I felt that other people might want to hear it. So I'm not. I say this about Legion of Myth a lot, and I'm going to put it in the terms that I would say for Legion of Myth. I don't want to be the guy, especially when it comes to the culture war side of stuff, because you know what, there are people on all sides of the fence. Again, I don't know how your channel handles that, so I won't get into it. But as far as that sort of goes, I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to be, come look at me, I'm the one that's going to guide us to, you know, the kingdom on the hill kind of stuff. No. But I want to add my voice. I want other people out there to know I'm with you. I'm there with you. Even if we don't agree on 100%, if we agree on that 80% Pareto solution, we're in. Let's do this. And that was one of the things. And I really do. I've just always been expressive with my opinion. So why not have a venue for it?
Yeah. And I actually, damn it. I know what I want to say. And I've been distracted by, I'll straight up admit, I just got distracted by chat.
Yep.
No, so as far as my channel, I try to go more middle of the road because like, I know personally, I consume way too much political, opinion based content. And I wanted the channel just to be no, this is, we're going to talk about games. Occasionally, some political stuff will, or cultural stuff will blend into it. But even then, I try to just minimize it. Like even when I like the occasional Friday morning, Max drops into my stream. It's like, oh, hey, Max, everybody go check out his channel. Hey, careful. Friday nights gets a little spicy. You might not like it.
I'm perfectly okay with that. In fact, I want to, because I don't want to make two channels. I've always been too lazy to do that.
Sure.
I don't want to, it's hard enough building up one. I don't want to build up two. But absolutely, I have no problem. Like, look, Sunday is the game only content, and we break those up into videos throughout the week. In fact, I don't even break up the Friday Night Chill stream. You will only find that under Friday Night Chill stream. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of older videos out there that include the old segment twos, though.
Sure. No, exactly. And when I like, I don't think it was a bad format from last year when I first met you guys. It was kind of interesting because it's like, oh, I get some game content and then I get some game news content, and
you get Max screaming and
right.
Heathen Dog hitting his camera and walking away.
Okay, quick tangent on that. That is probably the best thing about this year is the number of times that Heathen Dog has not rage quit.
I've had people complain to me about that. Like they're like, Max, we get it. You rant, and we're there for you ranting, but it's so much more fun to see Heathen Dog go nuts because we expect it from you and not so much from him. And we don't get that anymore because he isn't on the Friday Chill stream. I'm like, well, again, I retooled it like this intentionally because I want the people who watch on Sunday just to get game content.
Purr's got actually an interesting question there. If the segment twos are something you don't like, why not take them down?
It's not that I don't like them. It's the fact that if I tell people right now that our Sunday content, RPG Die Gest, if I tell them RPG Die Gest is just game content, and then they come across, say, one of those Jenny D videos, or how WotC destroyed Dragonlance or something like that, like, he's using language I wouldn't want to have around adults, let alone my kids. What's going on here? I don't take, there's only one video in my entire life I've ever taken down over anything like that. It's because I got crazy drunk and said some things I shouldn't have. And my wife was like, you're taking that video down.
You know what? I unpublished one because I don't like the person that it covers anymore.
I just keep it as historical then. Like I look at it as like, there are things that have changed about me. Be like, yeah, that's me back in the day.
Well, no, it's not. I don't have any problems with what I said. I actually left it up for quite a while because I still firmly believe in the point that I was making with the video. And it was just a review. It was just the way that the particular product that it was. And I'll tell you off stream. It because I absolutely do not want to promote this guy at all.
That's fair. That's fair.
But finally it just got to the point where it's like, okay, I cannot stand this. I'm going to unpublish the video. That's the only one I've done so far. But other than that, I would have to agree that as my wife, or for those in chat who are familiar, the Peanut Gallery, I would, like, if she said, no, you're taking that down, then yes, I would go in and take that down.
Oh, I said some things that in my friend circle weren't taken the wrong way, but by anybody in the public be like, did you just say what about who? Whoa. We got some problems here. So, yeah. And I know what I said too. And it probably wasn't appropriate for public consumption. So,
Justin Thor LP did say, Brian, you did that wrong. And I'm not putting this up because I am going to slightly edit it. When your guest says they forgot what the question is, you're supposed to insert a question that's ridiculous and nonsensical. That's fair. I'm not reading the rest of it.
That's fair.
If you're watching the live chat replay, you can see it in chat. Anyways.
If I go too far with my language or anything here, just let me know. I don't know what your rules are. And, me, I can say all types of 4-letter words. I'm trying to keep it down, though.
You are fine. I don't swear on stream. At least I try not to. I don't think I have.
I mean, it's your channel. I want to respect that. So
no, dude, you're totally fine. All right. So, but yeah, so the gaming plus rants, I actually think, like, it was funny because, like, you announced, okay, we're gonna change and we're gonna go to just gaming content on Sundays. And I'll admit, at first I was like, okay, this is a lot of game content. They're going for like 3-4 hours, whatever it is. And it's like, this is just, can you guys stop? Anyways, but I actually have to say, I think that it's actually grown on me, the new format that you do on Sundays, because first off, for those not familiar, on RPG Digest, actually, you know what? You are the guest. Why don't you tell us how RPG Digest?
I like to know what people think. No, I'm interested in hearing what people think about what we do on the show. So I'm good with that.
All right, I will describe it then. So RPG Digest. First off, it is a subscriber only show after the fact. Okay, so when it's live, you get to watch it. So I point that out because if you tune in when it starts, you'll get to see Max and Heathen Dog, and they'll be talking about life or just some stupid thing or whatever, and saying hi to everybody in chat. Yep. But you don't get to see that on the replay, so keep that in mind. However, if you are a subscriber to his channel, you get to see the whole thing, so do keep that in mind. But then the first half of the show, I'm going to say half, is a deep dive into something, which they've done this year alone. They've done Mutant Chronicles, Hyperborea, Conan 2D20,
and now it's been all Free League since then.
Right, and currently it's Mutant Year Zero.
Yeah, Mutant Megatron. Robots. I'm finally doing the robots.
Which, oh my gosh, I have to say, dear Lord, stop making me want to spend money.
Sorry. Yeah, but you're still in Free League, and I'm okay with that right now. I'm a little squinty eye looking at them. They could go either way still, but at least for a few years, they've been a company I can respect.
Yeah, and it's but it again, you do these deep dives, just literally breaking everything down, showing people how does the game work. And that's one of the things that I actually do like about yours and Heathen Dog's dynamic. I actually like that he's not rage quitting, because I think you two play off each other really well. And it like, you're gonna say, okay, here is the rule. And then Heathen Dog's gonna be like, oh, so you mean I get to do this? And then suddenly you're having this back and forth talking about how the game works, either correcting it or I'm not sure, let's read a little bit farther. So you get that absolute deep dive into a game, because you spend what, like 6 to 8 weeks at a time usually.
It depends on how long the game is. Yeah. The big thing between him and me is that, again, I'm spirit of the law. I don't care how it's written. I think of what the intent was or how I'm going to embrace the intent. We have a couple of pretty big arguments. Look at one of our Degenesis videos where I didn't think that stream was going to end. I thought it was going to be done and we quit. but it's because he's more into what do the mechanics say, and that's how it runs. Me, I'm like, well, this is what the mechanics really mean, and it can have a crazy dynamic there. Like, it says this, but I wouldn't allow it every situation. Be like, why not? It says you. Like,
well, but I think that again, going back to that Chesterton's fence idea, I think that is a fantastic dynamic to have. Have the spirit of the person who says, okay, let's play spirit of the law, and the person says, no, let's play letter of the law, and then being able to have that discussion while you're doing a deep dive. Like it's funny because you'll start talking about stuff and it's like, oh, I'm going to start reading that one. Oh, I should do a review on that one. Oh, now it looks like I'm just now if I do that, I'm just going to be following what Legion of Myth is doing. I can't do that on my channel. Everybody go watch their stuff because they do good stuff anyways. By the way, folks, go watch their stuff. They do good stuff anyways.
Thank you.
So, so that's the first half. And then the second half, like, I'll be honest, I think Heathen Dogs segment has been a lot more fun to watch as opposed to, okay, hey, here's our controversial topic, or here's the thing that we're going to make fun of somebody on. And I think at the beginning of the year it was a little rough, but I think he's really come into what he's doing the deep I'm going to call it a deep dive, but it's a focus deep dive. We're going to talk about how to optimize this kind of a character, or what it was the Rifts characters, like, how to take secondary skills that don't suck or something. I don't remember what it was.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah, but I think you've shifted this year into something I think is a little bit more family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But
we've been kind of slipping the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if you've been watching it, but I've been kind of noting it on the stream, like, Heathen Dog said poo-poo words more than me this time. But we have been slipping. It is one of the things I want to rein back in. We're getting a little too casual in that, and it's nothing to do with him being bad or me being bad. It's just how we naturally speak. But I want it to be family friendly for that, for the RPG Digest.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a fantastic format. Just because number one, the exposure that it's given me, to be able to look at new content, new games, things that I haven't seen, I have or haven't really read into. I've mentioned it to you guys before. I bought most of Rifts back in the day and got rid of it. And then I start watching Legion of Myth, and it's like, well, in case she's in earshot, I'm not going to talk about how much I've spent on
how about this?
Boxes.
I didn't buy Rifts back in the day, but being part of Legion of Myth. Part of that's because Kevin's an outstanding person. Look, do you think I'm ever going to play an anime game?
I mean, you look like it.
Okay, you know what? And maybe it will. But no, Mark McKinnon, the guy who wrote Besom, and also you can't see it, but down there I have my Absolute Power books down there. Actually, nope, that's Absolute Power also, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So I have other Absolute Power. Mark McKinnon, who's a Canadian lefty, has been absolutely amazing. We met him through dogging Besom 4th edition. Some dumb pedantic aspect of it. He was in our chat saying, hey, this is this. We're like, you want to come in and talk to us? He said, sure. And the dude was absolutely fantastic. He ended up having some medical issues, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. And I did an entire live stream based on that, knowing full well the guy probably doesn't like us because of how we say things and do things. He's Canadistanian. So, and they have particular ways about that. But no, Mark McKinnon from Besom, he's somebody I'll support any chance that I get, because like that senator I said at the beginning, I might never vote for that guy, but I'd be his best friend for all the help that he gave me.
Yeah. And that I think is one of the bigger things, is that so like I mentioned earlier, I like doing the streams because it's my time at the game store, because I can just sit and hang out and talk about games or whatever without actually having to go to the game store.
Yeah.
And part of it is because I don't want to go to the game store. You know,
Yeah, right.
like there's some where it's just like this doesn't feel like a healthy environment anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with gaming getting so popular, is that it it's hard to be able to just find people that you can just sit and talk about the game with.
Mhm.
It always ends up, oh well, there's this or there's that problem, or like I haven't mentioned this before on my channel, but I'll take a stand because I've got Max here.
Uh-oh. I'm rubbing off on people.
I despise the idea of safety tools in a game. I also don't think a game should be anything beyond PG-13.
That's fair. Well,
If
we might have a disagreement there depending on what that means to you, but yeah, okay.
well,
I'm graphic in my games. I don't do sex and so forth, but I'm graphic in my games, not horror, because I don't do horror games, but I absolutely am visceral, because I think that reminds players that fighting is not pretty. We're not just making bling go away. You're actually doing harm to someone, and I don't want people pulling out their swords or guns at every little slight.
yeah, like when I say PG-13, we'll say like 80s fantasy movie style.
You remember Braveheart, the beginning of Braveheart, when the kid goes into young Braveheart goes into that shed and they're all hanging on the meat hooks?
No, I don't remember that one.
That is a scene that I want to make you feel. And some people are like, whoa, that's too far. Yeah, I don't run games for kids. I want you to feel that, because that set the tone of why he felt the way he felt through the entire rest of the movie.
Right.
Goblin Slayer. Like, I don't do sex in my games, but if you look at Goblin Slayer, that first episode, not even an anime guy, and I'm talking about anime, set the tone for it. You didn't need to ever explain why goblins were evil after that first episode. You didn't have to keep punching it in. You had that one incident, and then, okay, those are evil. Let's wipe them out. All of them, So I that's the only reason why I kind of disagree, is because I do believe that visceralness can be good if you're doing it in the right environment. So I'll go to the rated R on that side.
Okay, well, I'll say a soft R.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, let's be honest. From a North American perspective, like saying PG-13 basically just means no sex. Like,
yeah.
Disemboweling.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, I did that nonsense. I don't want it now.
Right. Being old and married, you're like, no. No.
She's now sitting there going, oh, really? No.
Yeah, no. All right, we're not going to go down that road. But actually, I think From the Hilt brings up a good point. The rating of the game should reflect the players sitting at the table, and I think that is, I think that's exactly right. For me, like I said, an American PG-13, shoot everybody, samurai fights, whatever. The adult stuff, however it plays out, I don't. It doesn't need to be in my game. Let's be honest. Even like the like, I always call it 8-bit D&D, even though I know it's something, the old skit from the 80s, oh, your kids are into this thing. It's like, are there any girls there?
Yeah. The Dr. Demento thing. Yeah. Are there any girls there want to do that? Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Even that, it's like, I don't need that in my game.
That's fair.
But I don't even know why I ended up on this rant.
It's awesome. I love doing that on my live streams. But to backtrack for just a moment, if you're okay with that, just so I can clarify our stream. So on RPG Digest, segment 1 is a deep dive. And the reason I did that is because people, even though they don't get a lot of views, you're right, the segment 2s do better than the segment 1s. but they're there for people who want to dive into the game. Sometimes, like with the Conan 2D20 system and with Mutant Chronicles, we're learning it ourselves. So that deep dive helps us as well, because we don't know how the game plays. I've never played 2D20 before. Let's see what hey cat. Let's see what it how this plays out. And I love that aspect of it because we're learning it along with the people in chat. Other ones, like the Free League ones, I've run a few times. I'm not an expert at it, but I've run a few times. So now we're into something I know a little bit more. And so I can answer a few more of those questions on there, but I like doing that. Heathen Dog does overviews. That's his thing. He does overviews. So he doesn't have to spend 3 days. In fact, the rule I gave him was, I don't care if you come back to something, but you're not doing the same thing 2 weeks in a row. That's so now you have the consistency of segment 1 doing something, basically the same thing every week for a few weeks, but then something new in segment 2. And then, we do our chat in segment 3. And then the Friday night chill stream is where we look at the hobby, find something that either people are talking about or that's of interest to us or that's happening on my Discord or that's some dumb noteworthy news event, that makes me shake my head and go, all right, well, this is going to be I'm going to have a lot of quarters in the swear jar after this one, but it's something to interact with the chat, something that I can hang out and talk to people with, bring people on the panel that we could all feel ways about things and just have it might not seem like it to some people, but I call it having a good time. Yeah. Complaining about things like that is having a good time because I only do it on Fridays. I'm a happy person in life. You just wouldn't know it on Friday.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're out of place, but I'm just saying I like the way that you guys have split those up. The Friday night chill stream is kind of funny because so for me and my wife, that's date night. We get something. Well, when I say date night, we go get something to eat and we do our grocery shopping.
Okay.
That it's not that fancy, but it even then, so it's like we're driving around and I turn on Friday night chill stream and wife gets to listen to me
right. Sorry, honey. I'm listening to this guy scream about stuff, but
I get to tell you to stop sending messages in the chat while you're driving.
Did you hear that?
Am I in trouble? No.
No. Yeah. So that's why I call the wife Peanut Gallery, because so the desk is here in the living room. And so she'll be around, puttering around. I'll be talking to the chat and she'll just interject.
As long as I'm not in trouble, I don't care what happens to you.
Oh no, you're not in trouble, but I'll be driving and it's get to the stoplight. It's oh, I need to put something in chat. And then the light turns green, so I'm still not done. And I'm
can you finish typing this for me? What I want to finish saying is
I just finish it and then she yells at me. So she's now staring me down.
I'm used to that stare. Anytime I sing, sorry folks, on the stream, yeah, my wife comes in here. I'm telling you, people think I'm joking. No, she comes in here and she'll be, I'm trying to have a good night. I won't use the language that she uses, but she actually says I sound like two cats.
So actually, that's one question. What does your wife think of all of this? Especially, she's Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
She's when I say that, I mean from Japan, Japanese. Yep. So she didn't grow up with all of this. So what does she think of all of this?
She's not a fan of gaming, but she supports what I do. Okay. She supports. You see her in chat quite a bit. Tonight she went to bed. She was going to do this, but it was a little late for her. Hey, I'm trying to talk. But but she's supportive of what I do here, especially now that Legion Myth does earn a little bit of money, not much. But she understands that I'm having fun. This is how I do my hobby. I'm not out doing nonsense and so forth. But she has literally no interest in gaming. As I'm writing my game book, I'll be like, "Hey, I need to work some things out with you." She'll be like, "No, I'd rather do dishes." Okay, there you go.
Mine is not very different. Although she is willing to play games. She's willing to play D&D. She's not so willing to play anything science fiction related, which is very sad. She's like, I'm a fantasy girl. I'm like, that's
Hey, at least you got that. I have none of it. None of it. So, and believe me, I get dirty looks like, how long is this gonna take?
Honey, I'm going in here. They've got my new book. Why?
Right? Yeah. The first thing, the first thing that she, I die. The first thing she'll get rid of is like, can I get rid of that crap finally?
Mine has threatened to just chuck it all in a bin and set it on fire. I'm like, no.
I'd have divorce papers the next day just for threatening. Just for the idea, for the possibility you even came up with that idea. Bam.
I'm dead. She's allowed to come up with the idea, but I'm like, no. The boys get to take their dibs on whatever they want, then sell the rest of it on eBay. Oh, you assume it's going to be worth something? I'm like, I've bought games for 40 years. I know, like, it may not be worth a lot, but this $10 module from 30 years ago, you can get at least 20 bucks out of it. And 20 bucks
I don't
is
know if I'm happy about this or sad about this, but the old Dropships and Jump Ships book, that book used to be worth almost $500. And then PDFs came out, and now it's not. I had debated selling that book, but no, I'm happy. That's one of my favorite BattleTech books is the old Dropships and Jump Ships book.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything like that. I mean, I have I have a like third printing 3025. But I got into like, so I know you don't like the clans. I got into the game when like just after the clans had been introduced. So I don't know anything different.
Clans as a storyline wasn't bad. I didn't like what they did to gameplay.
Yeah, we can debate that,
That's another episode because that'll be 2 hours.
But all right. So overall, I don't know. I think I'm out of questions.
What?
I don't know. We can talk about whatever. I'm just trying to keep it focused.
No, that's true.
Wait a second. I just noticed this.
What questions does chat have?
Well, From the Hilt said, chat, put in questions. We've been reading the chat.
One thing I do want to clarify is, and it's a pedantic change, but just so that nobody's held high and dry out there, he was right that RPG Digest is broken. The main content of it, the games we cover and so forth, is broken up into segments that we put out throughout the week. So whatever we cover as far as the main focus is put out in video format the rest of the week, throughout the days. Like, we'll have like three videos for segment 2, a couple videos for segment 1. To see the full live stream, you have to be a member, not a subscriber. You have to be a paying member for that. Really, the only 2 things that members get, and I'm still working on something that we can do more for members, it's just a matter of time, is they get the full members only live stream that we do once a month, and they get the full, which includes some shenanigans that will sometimes happen in the middle, like some pretty fun arguments or whatever, the full live stream from RPG Digest.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and also, folks, I mean, it's a good channel. So it like I don't support hardly anything through Patreon, all that kind of stuff. I might have subscribed to Legion of Myth, but that's a separate issue. So From the Hilt actually asked a question that I totally missed, and I don't even get the reference. From the Hilt said, what? No G.I. Joe. Okay, From the Hilt, you're gonna have to explain that because I don't know what you mean. Cal Vanoni, I also noticed you said you'd rather watch paint dry on your miniatures. Come on Friday morning, I paint miniatures. You can watch the paint dry.
There you go.
So
even I sometimes pop in depending on my work schedule.
But yeah, that's good. As far as G.I. Joe, I gotta say, I like the G.I. Joe role-playing game.
Okay.
It's I actually think they did Oh, okay. From the Hilt was talking about my wife and no sci-fi and referring to. Oh, okay. So last night on Bear the Gen X GM, he's been letting me come on Wednesday nights, which has been a lot of fun because like he has a bunch of people that are like very experienced with role playing and all sorts of stuff, and
Cool.
and I'm like I don't have that experience, but for some reason I always find something to talk about, so that's always fun. But he said he was referring to my wife and not being interested in sci-fi, and I have an idea where running GI Joe where Cobra's basically already won, because if
Okay.
you think about it, they have tanks, they have planes, they have submarines, they have all of this stuff, and they can get it into, American airspace or in the middle of Kansas. But if they're just this terrorist organization that's in tiny little cells, I'm not quite sure they'd be able to pull that off. So my theory was maybe they've already won. They already control the world, but the United States is just holding out a little bit, and anyways, so
I look at it as the 80s, and you with all of that stuff, there's just a lot of suspension of disbelief you have to have. I'm a huge Gen 1 Transformers fan. Absolutely huge. But I went back and watched all those episodes again. I was like, I still like it. I do. I promise. I still like it.
So I a couple of weeks ago I was flipping through YouTube, and apparently they've got the official GI Joe channel, and they've just got like all the episodes and all like the multi-part episodes, just like one video, just put it up, bam, you can watch the whole like the whole
Yep,
miniseries.
Hasbro's done that with Transformers too. That's where I was watching them. Yep.
Yeah, and well, when you say suspension of disbelief, they launched a space shuttle and Cobra caught it with nets.
That could happen.
And it's just like holding position because the thrusters are still going.
Look, in Transformers, they moved the Earth right next to the sun and nobody died. You're just sweating a little bit. I mean, I actually, at that time, I didn't get into G.I. Joe. Like, it wasn't until later in life that I kind of went back and watched a bunch of those. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It just was never my thing. But to be fair, even in role-playing games, I like fantasy and sci-fi. I don't like modern. If it's modern, it's got to be something like Cyberpunk or Shadowrun. It's got to have some sort of weirdness in it. I live in the real world. No, that's kind of a cop-out answer. I don't know how I want to say it. It's just like a D20 modern, for example. Call of Cthulhu even just doesn't interest me.
Yeah, and like I would say, I kind of agree with you. Like, the way that I would put it is modern plus. So like I can still relate to it, like guns and cars and planes, that kind of stuff. But it's either far enough out that I'm probably dead before this is going to happen anyways, so I can kind of suspend, or like you said with Shadowrun, you just put something in that just shifts it enough that it's like, okay, yeah, this isn't.
Well, let's look at something we both, I think, are interested in. Land and Sea, Splashdown.
Oh, yes.
So I struggled with that at first because it was modern. But once the Ashers got moving and then the bugs came out, I'm like, all right, I'm in now. Yeah. This is pretty cool. Because just modern things today, things just don't interest me that much. I like to, one of the things I like about BattleTech was that even though it was all human, which I'm totally cool with, well, you had FTL and you had lasers and you had giant stompy robots and you just had all this, to me, interesting stuff. Again, fantasy does the same thing, but I'm now hooked on the Air and Sea. I cannot wait for that third book to, or Land and Sea, sorry, Land and Sea. I cannot wait for the third book to come out in audiobook.
So Nerdy Ogre says Riffs equals Merlin and RoboCop versus Cobra.
Yeah, you know what?
I love it.
Wrong. I mean, the reason I stayed away from Riffs for so long is that's too much kitchen sink. Like,
yeah.
Again, for people who understand Dungeons and Dragons, my favorite setting is Dragonlance because it has limitations. No. What's that? Well, written by a Mormon, that is true. Although I haven't read the 5e stuff. Well, I've read the 5e game stuff, which we had a couple of rants about that, but I haven't read the novel. But But that stuff like the Disc of Mishakal and so forth didn't bother me. I didn't care that, okay, we can see some Mormonism in here. None of that stuff necessarily bothers me if it still makes a good story. And I thought it was a compelling story, not a Capellan story. And
although you'd like that too.
Oh yeah, I like the Capellan stories a lot, especially the ones where we win. There aren't many of those. But
that's like 2.
3. We have
2.5. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're right.
Making up numbers.
But, I was going to talk to you earlier about my interactions with Michael Stackpole, but we'll have to save that for another time probably. But now I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the compelling story is that it has limitations, and I like games. And what I've found in my existence so far, talking with people who play 5e or come from 3e, is that most of them, when exposed to the limitations of old D&D or any game really, that puts that fence up like you're talking about, but the fence makes sense, they like it better. I saw that with Aaron the Pedantic. He talks about that. The Basic Expert talks about that. A few others that I've come across, like, man, I started 5e, but when I played this other game, whether OD&D or old Dungeons and Dragons related or something else, they're like, it just makes more sense. It's way more interesting. I have to find more ways of using what's available to me because it puts that limit on there.
Yeah, and I think Mage's Musings brings up a good point. We'll come back to Dragonlance in just a second, where he says, contemporary games I find to be problematic. The issue being that with real world, it's hard to account for knowledge of your players. Everyone's an expert in something that you aren't, and so it disrupts the flow.
You guys have heard my laser story, right?
No?
Garthon. Oh my God, Garthon. I love you, Garthon. But man, when we would play a game, he works in biomedical equipment. Like, he fixes MRI machines and so forth. So he knows everything about radiation. He knows all this stuff about lasers and so forth. So we would be playing like, okay, lasers do this. Well, is it a green laser or a red laser? Is it a chemical laser or a light laser? I'm like, I don't know. It says laser. and he would get like, no, it matters because if it's chemical laser, I should be able to do this to stop it. And I was like, oh Jesus, dude, I don't know. Right. And the dude's brilliant. I mean, he's an absolutely smart guy. So he'd do this stuff constantly. And it's like, stop it. It's just a game. But I have to know. I have to know what it is because I can do these things. And his real world knowledge, which is, yeah, it shattered my mind. And I was just like, please stop. Just please stop.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and that's one thing that I've actually been thinking about recently. So it's like when you're running a game, okay, so you want to put a puzzle or something for the players to solve. Well, it's like, okay, so say all of your characters are IQ of 7. Okay, well, if then that it's that extra mix of, okay, what do players know? What do characters know? What can characters actually figure out? You're too stupid to figure out this puzzle, even though the player is actually like, PhD, whatever, and solved it, 2 days before you wrote the thing. So
I hate puzzles in games. I know that they're sometimes necessary. I hate them. My problem is I overthink them because I played with too many game masters who were either Mensa in high school or they'd buy puzzle books and, they'd get them out of there. So it's all these weird, complicated nonsense. And I overthink them. Come to find out, no, all you had to do was flip this switch and it solved everything. Like, dude, I didn't think of that because it seemed too easy. And then you just feel even stupider. I try not to put puzzles in my games without some sort of clues or without some sort of, or I wouldn't call it a puzzle. I don't mind little riddles. I don't mind things that make you think, as long as there are other options around it. If one option is the puzzle, another option is clubbing something, and the other option is talking to someone, I think that's a good balance.
Nerdy Ogre says, Max, curled in a corner. I just wanted to run a sci-fi game.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Garthon is absolutely brilliant when it comes to things like that. So, it's hard, and I don't want to take that away, especially when you come from old school D&D where there weren't skills and you were just a class. Where does the class end and the person start? Who knows? It was a lot of player knowledge then anyway.
Right.
But, then you went into the 90s and everything got so skill oriented. Everything got so, well, your character can't know that. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. Your character can't know this. Your character, I don't like playing a character sheet. I like to play a character. So I want somebody like him to be able to use something like that. But man, that goes outside the scope of what the game offers. Lasers, lasers, laser. Can we move on?
Right. Yeah, no, and that's the other thing is, you have going back to, GI Joe and Transformers, you have to suspend the disbelief. I'm watching the show. I don't care that there is no way that anything is going to catch a launching space shuttle in a net,
I don't know.
and keep it
G.I.
there
Joe
hovering.
proved it.
Well, but you know what? I can suspend it enough to just have some fun with it.
Yep.
Like the live action movie they did. Everybody was like so angry. It's like, oh well, they blew up the ice and it's sinking in the ocean. And I'm like, you all never watched the cartoon. They do that. I don't care about the physics. That was a great, G.I. Joe movie. So again, just being able to it doesn't matter. Is it like if it matters that it's a chemical versus a
To him,
energy. No, I know, but I'm just saying in the game, if it matters whether it's a chemical or a radiation laser, they'll put it in there and they'll tell you this matters. Otherwise, sorry, it's a 1950s ray gun and it just does what it does because it does it.
I'm so glad you said that because Biggest Geekus today on their live stream, we're talking about hit points, and I can't stand hit points because they're abstract. I don't like abstract damage. There's no fault. You can have 100 hit points, and as long as you have one, you're at full capacity. Second you hit 0, done. And I don't like that. I don't care how you call it. I would never take it out of Dungeons and Dragons. I would never try to change it because that's core to the game. That's how you play that game. I have a little tweak I do with it, but I don't like that. I like things that make a little bit more sense than that. Sometimes things can be too abstract.
I'm just bringing this up. I give you Fatal Fluffies. What was that? Again, it goes back, just to address from the hilt. It goes back to suspending disbelief. It's G.I. Joe, and they introduced these alien space creatures that for some reason Cobra had like a half dozen of them that they snuck into a cargo pod, and it's like, what? How? Where? Why? No, but exactly. Shh. It doesn't matter. It just told the story, and it was weird and funny, and you can just go with it.
Don't think about it. It's react to it. Don't think about it.
Well, right, but also, but we can do that in our games. We don't have to know. Well, why are the orcs evil? Who cares? They are. They're going to mess you up. Protect the town. I'm not saying you have to go slaughter the whole village of orcs. I didn't say you
tomato.
I didn't say you can't. I'm just saying you don't have to.
Glass half full, orcs half dead. What do you want?
So, Mage's Musing says, you set a lot of people off with the hit points. All One says hit points are the worst and slow down games. Mage's Musing says they only become a problem when they get super bloated. As a metric, they're fast and easy to understand.
I get that's why I would never take them out of Dungeons and Dragons. I wouldn't try to change Dungeons and Dragons because that's not what I do. I do have a tweak in mind. I think I mentioned on Biggest Geekus today where I said, or in the chat where I said, at 50% hit points, I put you at a -1 to all rolls. And at 25%, I put you at -2 to all rolls. That's a house rule I have because I want to at least represent somehow that you are fading. I just don't. The big one for the two issues for me is what I call the whack-a-mole. I don't like the binary. If you have any hit points, you're alive. In a second you hit 0, you're dead. I know some people say we can go to -10, yada, yada, whatever. It's just up and down. And then the healing concept of it, down, up, down, up, down, up. I've never liked that. So, but would I take that out of D&D? No, because that's how that game's run.
Yeah. And I'm not. Okay, I got distracted by chat, but you're not wrong. That's I can't even put the words. Okay, I'm checking out. All right. Actually, I do actually have to check out. It is 10 after 9.
This went by quickly. Wow, this went by really quickly.
Well, you're used to like doing, 5-6 hour streams,
I've been on some
couple
others
times a
like
week.
this, which were an hour or two, and I can tell I'm not going to name who it was, but one of them I was like, "Are we done yet? Can I go, please?" I had a really good time, so thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I know we've mentioned your channel a few times, but is there anything that you want to shout out? Anything that you want to talk about before we sign off?
Now, the main thing is you can see it in the description right there at Legion of Myth on YouTube. Don't follow me on Twitter. I only troll people on Twitter, so you won't like what you see there. But
I've been loving what I see there.
Well, people feel ways about that. I love it when people, especially those who know how I believe, and they're like, did somebody hack Max? Because this is literally the opposite of what he believes in. But again, I don't care because it's Twitter. But go follow us on Legion of Myth on YouTube. Like I said, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch us live for RPG Die Gest, which is game-oriented content. Tomorrow night, Friday Night Chill Stream. I'm changing my topic, so don't look at the description right now. But we talk about what's going on in the hobby, opinions and commentary, to have a panel of people that pop on in. Chat is absolutely crazy. Even chat here, love the chat that was here today. Thank you everybody for being there. And no matter who it is that you watch, if it's on gaming, hopefully you guys enjoy it. Come back here for gaming with ADHD. I hope to come back again. I hope to have him on the Friday Night Chill Stream sometime and just talk more about this stuff. I had a great time tonight.
Yeah, I had an absolute blast as well. From the hilts at
Legion of Meth.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, Legion of Myth. That was a good one. But yeah, guys, absolutely go subscribe to Legion of Myth. If you just want the gaming content, Sundays are always a treat. Or the rest of the week, because you'll get the stuff eventually.
You just miss all the banter in between. It's up to you if you like that or not.
But then also the Friday Night Chill Stream, if you want things a little spicier, if you want to get angry at Max, or any of his guests, feel free to get on there as well. But I also want, before we go, I do want to point out, Max, you've been a huge supporter of me, and I really appreciate it.
Good stuff, man. Seriously, when I saw how small your channel was when you first came to me, I was like, how is this guy not bigger? I'm actually scared that you're going to pass me. I'm dead serious. The way you do those interviews and so forth. Yeah. So when that day comes and I'm begging you, please come to my show.
Well, number one, you're welcome back here anytime. I need to make these Thursday night shows more regular if you want. Anyways, I need to figure out. I'm a disaster, but seriously, the number of times that you've shouted out my channel, I know I have tons of subscribers here because of you. And overall, I do enjoy your content. It is a lot of fun. You clearly have a lot of passion, you and Heathen Dog. So, I mean, I know I can reach out to him directly through Discord, but do pass that message on to me that
I'll do.
I enjoy. I absolutely enjoy the content and love hanging out with, or love being in your chat and hanging out with everyone there. Real quick, I would be more than happy to interview more Legion of Myth folks. I know Heathen Dog's evenings are always a little busy.
You can work it out with him. Absolutely. Yeah. He'll just got to let him know dates and times. He has plans Friday night. That's the only reason he's not on the Friday Night Chill Stream. So
yeah, no. And I mean, I don't want to inconvenience anyone, but we'll figure something out. But no, I would absolutely have Heathen Dog on. I think he'd be fun to talk to as well. But anyways, I'm going to keep rambling. You all know how I get. So I'm going to hit the end broadcast button. It's going to end awkwardly at some point. Thanks everyone.